Okay, so got the bell or the mandrel pulled off the lathe, and now we are about to draw it. So I draw horn bells and trumpet bells through steel plates. These are just any old steel plates. I buy them custom cut to 6x6, which is not a big deal, but can be kind of expensive depending on where you're getting them from. And then I anneal them myself. I've had heat treating shops do it, but it's inconsistent. And the plate you get is inconsistent, so you kind of have to test a batch to see what's gonna do, but I heat treat the piss out of them to make them like, you can't really get steel dead soft, but as soft as possible so that we're not thinning the metal. A lot of times when you draw with steel washers, like for nuts and bolts, you end up thinning the brass a lot as the taper gets larger, but I found that with these and the particular thickness, these are about 060 is the actual thickness on them. Some are a little thinner. I don't get much thinning at all, and I'm doing like 016 bells, so I haven't had any issues with that. I've played with nylon a little bit for bells. I use nylon exclusively for small tubes. I haven't gotten what I wanted yet. So I'm gonna retract this guy here, get it all ready. Okay, that's all good. Now I gotta hold this bell mandrel up there. I don't have enough space to make a proper cart for this yet. Once we're in the new building full time, I will though. I'm very excited about that. Basically, I just have the mandrel resting on a piece of steel that it'll slide on while it gets pulled. And I only pull when I draw bells. I could have just died. I only pull bells. I don't like pushing bells. I think it's kind of silly. I used to do it before I had this draw bench done. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot. I don't like the stop, but if I had John here, this would be a lot easier. Okay, there we go. So the downside with steel for a drawing washer is it tears. It doesn't tear the brass if you're an idiot, but the steel actually tears. Sometimes it tears here, sometimes it tears way, way farther. But either way, we got a good job. Now, I'll take the bolt out. This is what just holds on. You can see that finish we got is really nice. You can see how it's darker here than there. Some of that glassy finish we're talking about. It's perfectly smooth. No lines, no anything. And that's just about how you prepare your washers. That feels really good. And then here, you can see that line here starts right there because that's where the washer tore, but that just hammers out. No big deal. And then you spin over it, spin the flare down, and you're all set. So that's great. Okay. So we just drew the bells. A couple days later, I've been working on the building. And now I got it back on the lathe. So our tails are super smooth, glassy smooth. And then I annealed the flare end, okay? And this is the pre-spun finish still after draw. So it's really nice, basically. So we are going to just go over it and do the final spin, that's it. And then we'll trim it and put the garland on. I'm using bar soap again because I can't find any wax. The bar soap makes me sneeze, I don't like it. Really good lubricating though. Something's really wrong here. Oh my god, I f***ed it! Did I really just do that? I don't really get mad about stuff, it just like really kind of makes me sad. Because there was a lot of work went into that bell and now it's messed up. I was going to do, I'm sniffing because of soap, not because I'm crying. I've not done this in years. I can't believe it just happened. I was doing the final spin and it was a really good final spin until the lathe was spinning down and you could probably see it. The throat section here looked like not round, which is, you know, lathes go in circles. What had happened was I forgot to put the bolt that holds the bell on the end of the tailstock. So as I was spinning it down the mandrel here, the bell was walking off the mandrel and it was loose here. And I have not done this in so long. It makes me really, really sad because that was a really good bell. Life goes on. You still got one more. If that happens, there's more brass made every day. I'm putting the bolt in. It's the most important part of making a bell is making sure you bolt in it to the lathe. Okay, where's my wax? I'm done with this soap. I'm having war flashbacks. It's not as good as the soap, but the sneezes, I'm telling you, the sneezes are real. Okay, take 2. 1100 RPM, doing the final spin. Thank God. Okay. That worked. We have a bell. Okay. The astute among you might notice that I'm spinning from all the way back here, and I do not like that. I don't like that one bit. When I make trumpet bells, I draw all the way up to here on the flare, and that's the only part that gets spun down. And it's super easy, and they come up beautiful. It's one of the things that I'm usually very good at figuring out, and I'm having trouble with it. I draw with steel right now for my bells. I want to draw with nylon, but even nylon won't get all the way up there. I've tried it. I have the stuff to make lead donuts to draw with lead, and that's what I've seen people like Con Selmer, like Old School Con, or even Busher were doing big stuff, and they were going all the way up here. The only thing I'm concerned about with that is how tight the draw is. I'll have to do some measuring and playing, but I think if I don't have to spin back here, my life becomes a lot easier. Because you see out here, there's no lines, and here there's lines. It's just because the drawing is so much more precise than spinning. That actually looks really good. A little bit of extra on the back. I got to do some burnishing, but seam looks good, nice and laid down. Should bend really well. If you have like weird humps in here after you spin, you can burnish them out, but then when you go to bend it, it'll kind of bite you in the ass. I got some faceting on the flare, but I'll double check when I take it off that it doesn't transfer on the inside. On a normal thickness bell, like on the 020 one I just did, which turned out great, I would skive here. I don't know if we have any video footage of that, Colin. We'll have to do a video on it or something. It's a very German thing to do, and it's something I didn't used to do until I made friends with Germans and they told me all their secrets. So it's basically take a scraper, like you can do triangle scrapers, or you can do round like saw blades that you grind into scrapers, and it's when they beautifully like scrape the top surface off while the lathe's running. Since this bell is so thin, I don't like skiving because you can really easily f the bell. This is an 016 bell, so it's 0.016 thousandths of an inch. It's like paper thin. That's what they are supposed to be for this historical horn. But skiving it can sometimes like grab if your scraper's not perfectly sharp, which honestly I'm not good at sharpening scrapers. Someone wants to come work here and full-time sharpen my scrapers, I would honestly love that. I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, skiving. So yeah, and that gets the surface really smooth, but when it's this thin, I don't like doing it. I'd rather take the time, because all skiving does is save you time on sanding. Any like weirdness is gonna get taken out in the belt sander, so it's not like it's defining that surface. All I'm doing now is doing a quick sanding right where the garland is gonna overlap, so that when we put the garland on, we don't have to do any weird sanding inside of there. And then we're also gonna trim it to length. I want to file at the top seam first. I don't think much of the seam will get left, or where I'm filing now will get left after we trim, but because it's always going to be a little raised at the edge there. So I just like to knock that down, and then we'll sand it down so that when you spin the garland down on top, you don't have a hump in your garland, because it will happen. Garlands don't hide everything, they just accentuate it if you spin them well. If you spin your garlands loose, then they're just going to suck. Yeah, that's great. Now we're gonna just define a line to give us a basis. What I like to do is trim it with shears to that line. Again, if your tools aren't perfectly sharp when you're doing trimming like this, or your speeds aren't right, stuff like that, it'll mess the bell up. And I'm so sick of losing bells for silly things like that. I'd rather just take the 2 seconds to trim it with tin snips, and then just get it round on the lathe. Of course. Yeah, that's really good though. I'm happy with that. I used this mandrel. I made this mandrel. So right here, there used to be like a weird wave flat spot kind of thing, and I just ground that out today. Yeah, I'm done for tonight. I don't want to f anything else up, because now we're getting to the parts where it's like crunch time. You know, you got to be 100% on it. After not putting that bolt in that bell, I'm just like so demoralized. But we'll get at it tomorrow. Yeah. Look at that seam. Butt seams for the win. If you do lap seams, you're a dork. Ha 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 ha.